Good morning, afternoon, and evening from wherever in the world you're joining us today. Welcome to another SpeakUp session. SpeakUp is a unique collaboration between KeyNote and SpunkGo, through which KeyNote directory members and training alumni will share their experiences and expertise on various topics each month to ignite meaningful and inspire conversations on subjects that matter and bring communities together through SpunkGo. KeyNote Women Speakers is the world's leading female speakers directory. Founded in Singapore in 2017, KeyNote is a nonprofit organization that is run entirely by volunteers. KeyNote aims to bring diversity to speaking stages across the world. They focus on diversity simply because it increases group intelligence. SpunkGo is an all-girls global student organization with over 5,000 members in 20 countries. We hold regular LifeSkill webinars, hosting successful women entrepreneurs and professionals for our various chapters. This is the 9th episode of SpeakUp, and we're so thrilled to have KeyNote's chair and founder, Mette Johansson. As we commemorate International Day of the Girl, Mette will share her powerful insights on how girls everywhere can dream furiously, speak up, and be heard, become competent decision makers, and realize their full potential. A little bit about Mette. As a founder and relentless driver of KeyNote Women Speakers Directory, Mette is on a mission to bring diversity to speaking stages across the world. She is the founder of a training consultancy, MetteMind Training, and one of 6 co-founders in the global social enterprise Inclusive Leaders Institute. Mette is also an author of 2 Amazon bestsellers, a recipient of the Asia Woman Icon Award, Golden Door Rex Karma Veer Medal, and Insight Magazine's 50 Most Promising Women in Business. She is also featured in multiple ranges of media, being represented her business and her capacity as the founder of KeyNote, including Singapore's flagship paper, The Straits Times. As a highly purpose-driven and authentic leader, Mette speaks internationally on how to become a purpose-driven and authentic leader. The leaders that we follow, not because of their position, wealth, or title, we follow because they are inspiring. Mette has lived in 11 countries, studied and worked. She is a global citizen, fluent in 4 languages, and now calls Singapore home. Mette, we are so excited to have you on here. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day.
Thank you so much. I'm really pleased to be here, Netra. It's amazing, very inspirational what you're doing, and I hope that we will have a great conversation together today. I am going to share some of the things that I believe will make girls thrive, young adults, women thrive. It's of course very subjective, a lot of it. It is how I have seen people around me develop, what I have seen with adults that they are completely missing. I work with young adults. I regularly teach at a school that my children used to go to, which is the German European School in Singapore. I'm Danish, my husband is German. That's why they went to a German school here in Singapore. I have taught there for the past 6 years. I love working with young adults, and yeah, let's hear from you today as well. I hope you can see my full screen slides. Great. Now, when girls thrive, what makes you thrive? What is it that you believe will make you thrive? Now, if you could choose between the different things, like for instance, here we have there, that was too fast. And if you could choose, what would you choose? Would you choose success? Would you choose wealth? Would you choose happiness, fulfillment? If there's one thing you could go after, what would you choose? And feel free to put it in the chat box. I would love to hear from you. Which one of those 3 would be your main focus? Alice says happiness. Nice. Fatima says success. And then wealth. Okay, success. All right. Do we have any others? Success. All right. Happiness in some characters that I can definitely not read. Happiness. What else do we have? So we have right now a mixture of everything. Happiness, success, then wealth, success again. Okay, all right, we've got a little bit of a picture. Now, of course, okay, happiness again. I believe success will bring happiness and wealth. Really, that is absolutely cue. And you already saw my answer because I was too quick in flipping my slides here. In fact, studies show that success follows happiness. So if you're focusing on your happiness, then success will follow. And wealth, this is one of the things that's very, very subjective. Now, you're living in very different countries around the world with different standards of living. In the US, there was some studies some years ago that said, if you earn $57,000 a year, every extra dollar is not going to give you incremental happiness. If you, in the US, don't earn that $57,000 a year, you will maybe suffer a bit from happiness. And that is because that's needed in order to have a standard of living that allows you to do the standard things that people do. So that means if you're in a country with lower salaries, of course, you have to scale it down proportionally. Now, $57,000 is a salary that graduates from university will be able to achieve. Not very easily all, they will be able to achieve a salary of $57,000. So as a university graduate, this is a very realistic salary. Every single dollar that you earn extra is not going to influence your happiness. All right, some of you also said success. Success is usually also what follows after you pursue happiness. If you are making sure that you're happy, then success will follow. What does make you happy? Of course, it's very different from person to person, what makes you happy. In general, what I have found is that when you are focusing on things that fulfill you, things where you can have self-actualization, when you're living more in the moment, of course, you can live with big, audacious goals, which is one of the things I also would like to discuss with you. If you're living more in the moment and enjoying the ride as well, it's not just about striving to be more successful all the time. It is about enjoying the ride all the time. All right, so after I've shared this, what should you be focusing on? Could you focus on slightly different things? I'd love you to think about this. What can you focus on if success is following happiness? What makes you happy? What puts a smile on your face? What are the things that you like to do that when you do it all day, you end the day with a smile on your face? You might be tired, you might be exhausted, but you have a smile on your face and you're all ready to do it next day again. Now, of course, many of you are still in school, and I don't know whether school is putting a smile on your face. Of course, there's things outside of school. And I will also be sharing some of my secrets with what I believe will be career success. And again, I'm not saying that career success needs to be just focusing on climbing the career ladder. It is about also doing stuff that you love. Now, the great thing is that there is a sweet spot that if we do things that we are good at, if we do things that we love doing, and if we do things that also give us some money, that is when we are in a sweet spot. When we also feel that we're adding value to society. That is the Ikigai. You might have heard of it before. Ikigai, it's a Venn diagram of 4 different circles with those different elements of what are you good at, what do you love doing, what do others appreciate and will pay money for, and how can you in fact also add value. Those 4 different circles, if you have all of these present in your life, that is when you are the most fulfilled and happy. Okay, all right. So my secrets for a career, for a good career, is what I'm going to share with you today. And I will start with that, although you're in school, I don't really believe in school being so amazingly important. I'm a mother of 2 kids. My daughter is 19. My son is 21. My son is a high school dropout. He finished his O-levels, and then even for his O-levels exams, I had to drag him to the last exam. I told him, your exam is at 2:30 p.m. Luckily, I did that because it started at 2 p.m. He was still asleep at 1 p.m. I dragged him out of bed at 1 p.m. in order to make it to school. And yes, I do believe it's good that he has his O-levels, because that makes it easier for him to return to study if he develops an interest for it later. But honestly, I'm quite happy for him. If he doesn't want to study, he doesn't have to study. I myself, I've got loads of certificates and degrees, and I've got an MBA, and it's not that I'm against studying. And I was a really good student. I was scoring in the top, 1% of my bachelor's degree, and I got an MBA with distinction. So it's not that I'm anti-school. It's just that I don't see that that's the most important thing that we need to focus on anymore. And I hope none of your parents are listening to this, because they would probably drag you away from the computer right now. There are things that you don't learn in school. And unfortunately, these are the ones that are much more important if you want to be fulfilled and have self-actualization when you are working. I have developed this model, which you won't find everywhere when you Google, because it's my private little hypothesis of what is important when you are in a career. I call it, first of all, visionary leadership. I have noticed this also in loads of different parts of my career. When you are able to provide that vision for other people, to provide direction. Where is it that we want to go? What is it that we want to do? What is it that will benefit and get out of going into this direction? When you are able to inspire others with your visionary leadership, that is about strategy, vision, direction, mission, that is when you will have followers. So being a visionary, inspirational leader is absolutely key. And I've put this as a big chunk of what is important in order to have a career as a leader. Another part that I've put here is executive leadership. With that, I mean execution, doing stuff, getting stuff done, rolling up your sleeves. At KeyNote Women's Speakers Directory, it's a non-profit organization. Mette, just now, she mentioned that I'm a founder of that. Binu, who's also on the call behind the KeyNote Women's Speakers logo that you see there. We're two people who really like to roll up our sleeves and get stuff done. And we can tell in this organization who is really producing, who has that ability to not just have talk, but also doing things. And that is extremely important. Are you able to get stuff done? Another part that I also like to focus on is the human leadership. Are you possessing the skills to be a human leader? The human leadership skills of making sure that people are not just inspired by your vision or inspired by what you're doing, but also by the way that you're treating other people. I have a lot of discussions with headhunters and corporations about this model, because they are focusing on the fourth part, which is, oh, you need to be an expert in finance in order to have this job, or you need to be an expert in marketing, or you need to have worked in the banking industry. Of course, it is good to know your trade. Yes, absolutely. Now, if you're a leader, your job is to make sure that you're steering other people, that you are providing the vision, that you're also helping them in getting stuff done, and that you are treating them with respect. This industry knowledge and the functional knowledge, that is what your team is bringing towards you. That is what your team is bringing. I fully understand that in the first years of your career, do become an expert in different fields, because otherwise you won't be a leader. I also want you to understand that you do not just focus on learning everything within your field, because that will probably bring you towards a very narrow career path as an expert in your field. Now, I'm going to be a little bit high level on this next slide because I was working with a group of leaders yesterday where we had a discussion about the changing requirements of leadership. And I thought, I'm going to share this with you as well. What are the changing requirements of leadership today? I collected it from a variety of sources, and you can quickly read it through. Those were top leaders yesterday that said, those are the requirements for leadership. Whilst you're reading this through, think about, what are you learning in school about all of this? What are you learning about being empathetic? Are you learning listening skills apart from just sitting there on your behind and listening to the teacher? What about flexibility? Are you taught what to do, like in a COVID situation? For my business, all of a sudden, we could not have in-person training anymore. And that was my core business. The carpet, the rug was pulled away from underneath my feet. I needed to be very flexible in order to change my business model. What about setting priorities mindfully? This is one of the things when I work with clients, senior people in large corporations, they are being so busy being busy, instead of setting priorities and saying, all right, this is the most important thing. This is what I'm going to get done today. Are you sitting down and simply starting from, oh, what comes to mind first and doing this first? Set priorities. What is the most important thing for you to get a good result for your school or to develop yourself right now so that you will have great success in future, which of course, now I'm contradicting myself, so you can be happy in future and then success will follow. Are you setting the right priorities? Focus on that on a daily basis. You're not necessarily learning to be mindful about this at school. Inclusion and collaboration is one of the absolute important trends, and we need to be inclusive. We need to be able to collaborate. Are you studying at a place where collaboration, where you're working in teams and where you're taking all the frustrations that you have when you're working with kids who are not delivering, your fellow classmates, they're supposed to be delivering and they're just not. Are you taking it as a learning experience of how to collaborate? That is what I would like you to think about. Transparency and candor. This is also one of the things with the internet, we know everything, and treating information like something that's ours and ownership, that's not going to work for leaders anymore. Flexibility, agility, sorry, I mentioned flexibility twice there, I just noticed, and humility as well. This is what top leaders yesterday told me as well. Yes, this is what's needed from leaders. Are you learning this in school? Not necessarily, right? I also have here a question. How much does confidence count in leadership? Absolutely. And I see another few questions that I hope that Netra will collect along the way, and we can take some of them afterwards. This one I like to pick up immediately from Fatima of how much does confidence count in leadership? Absolutely. And you know what? Confidence, it is a thing that often comes with when you're happy and when you're fulfilled. And when you can have self-actualization, a large part of that is also what builds your confidence. I do lots of courses on executive presence. Part of it is how you show up. You can already do a lot with your body language. You can already do a lot with how you say things, the clarity that you're providing. A large part of it is also how you show up with your substance and character. And that means integrity, the respect for other people, and all of that also comes with, of course, with experience, a lot of it comes, and also by putting yourself out there. And when you see that you're succeeding, that's often when the confidence comes as well. So thank you very much for that comment. All right, so how many of these things are you learning in school? This is why I would highly urge you to do much more than studying. One of the things that I would urge you also to do is to learn how to work. Do you already have a job? Do you already work part-time? Whether it's you know, starting with babysitting in your earlier teenage years, or working in a coffee shop, clearing the tables as a little bit older, and when you're big teens or young adult, having a part-time job whilst you are studying, I can highly recommend you to do so. I see here in Singapore, where I'm based, that there's a lot of students, they're focusing so much on studying. I'm interviewing them to work with my company, and I cannot hire them. They're coming out of school expecting that they can work on this on an equal basis with some of my trainers who've been working as trainers for 15 years. No, sorry, you cannot be training my clients who are corporate companies such as Microsoft, Citibank. You need to know how to work first before you can train others to work. And this is the example from my company. In general, I can tell you that a lot of the people that I know, they see that students who are coming out of university, they're very difficult to employ because all they know is theoretical knowledge. Whether you want to work for a volunteer organization or somewhere where you earn extra money, doesn't matter. It's simply about, have you had a boss before? Have you had the responsibility of getting up in the morning and turning up in time? Back to my son, and I hope you're not going to contact him and tell him that his mummy said all of this. My son has a severe case of attention deficit. That's one of the reasons why he just did not like school at all. When he refused to go to school, and I dragged him to his last exam, as I said before, we said, all right, then you're on your own. It's fine if you don't want to study, then we're not going to sponsor you anymore. Also, it would be difficult for him at that point of time to work in Singapore, where we live. So we brought him on holidays to Europe, to Denmark, where I'm originally from. And then we said, all right, find a job. He found a job. He was 16 at the time, I believe. He found a job working at a supermarket that's open 24 hours a day. He had to get up at 4 a.m. in Denmark in November, December, getting up at 4 a.m., riding the bicycle through town because there's no public transportation yet at that time of day, and going to a supermarket to work. That is something that really teaches you stuff. I'm so happy he did that because it made a huge change in his development. He realized what it takes to work, the responsibility that goes with it, the effort that it takes in order to fulfill these responsibilities. And this is connected to a study, so a little bit of theory I have here as well. It's not just my subjective opinion, as I warned you in the beginning, that some of this is my subjective opinion. Life is not just a bed of roses. Studies show that kids who have been responsible for certain chores from an early age, they will also be more successful later on. They will be more happy in relationships because they have taken responsibility. I don't know what your situation is right now, but you can still learn to take responsibility for certain chores. And this is something, maybe if your parents are listening, they will be good friends with me again. After first I said, forget about studying. Now I'm saying, do chores. Maybe they will like me again. Yes. Simple chores in the house are a great predictor of whether you are going to be successful later on. And I can share with you why. Because I'm running a business right now. We are a small-sized company. In the training business, it's fairly sizable. Most training companies are one woman or one man show, one person shows to make it neutral. A little bit larger than most companies. And I can tell you that there is so much that I still need to do that if I was in a corporate job, I would not be very happy to do it. I still need to set up appointments. I still need to chase people for invoices. I still need to make sure that the bookkeeping is all in up to scratch. I still need to book my flight tickets and all of these things. And when I was in my corporate job, that's like 8-9 years ago, I had a secretary to do all of this. As my own business owner, there is a lot of things that are chores. Luckily, there's plenty of stuff that I enjoy doing, such as webinars like I'm doing it today, plenty of that stuff that also energizes me. If we have not been used to doing chores, it will be much more difficult for us to accept these things. We will procrastinate it and we will not be as successful in our jobs. So yes, do chores. That's one of the things that also will make you more successful later on. Okay, on the next slide here, I have the sources, which you can also see. I'll share the slides with you if you're interested afterwards. Another thing is, of course, your network. Who is it that you know? You are right now here together with some kick-ass girls, young adults, young women. Build that network. Support each other, also internationally. This is one of the things that you can draw upon later on. If you want information about something specifically, you can go to your network and ask for advice. If you need some introduction to somebody, do you know somebody in the banking industry, for instance? Do you know somebody, one of your parents already worked there and can answer me questions? Whatever it is, if you have a network, you can always go to them for information, for advice, and maybe for further connections. So yes, it's who you know that's really important. I sometimes get the pushback a little bit of, what about if I'm an introvert? I don't really like to go out and network. Network doesn't have to be in this big room, big event thing where you walk around and you exchange loads of name cards or whatever you do, connect with each other on social media. Networking can also be building relationships one-on-one. And in fact, these relationships can be a lot stronger when you've invested in one-on-one relationships. They can be a lot stronger and a lot more powerful than the big, almost faceless networks. So within this network, why don't you start picking out, building some more one-on-one networks, one-on-one relationships, who you know, absolutely essential. One of the things that I also like to stress a lot is about helping others. This is maybe very subjective because there are studies that say that there are givers and there are takers. This is by Adam Grant, a quite famous author and university research lecturer and researcher. He says that some people, they like to take. They like to take. So when you're meeting them, they will see, can they get any benefits from knowing you? Other people like to give, and that is helping others. And then you've got the people who are in between. They're the matches. When I do something for you, I expect you to do something for me, right? So that's a matches. Now, the givers who are not selfless giver, if you are if you don't take care of yourself, it's not going to work. If you are somebody who takes care of yourself and gives, those people have proven to be the most successful of all people. So if you are a giver, when you help other people, whilst of course taking care of yourself, when you're not expecting things in return, when you say, hey, I'd be happy to help you out without expecting you're going to do something for me just because I helped you. Because we know that paying forward is also working. At some point of time, you can believe in the universe, or you can simply believe in that it's your aura of that you're giving and you're attracting other people who will also be giving things to you. One of the things that I also would like to stress is being flexible, inclusive, and international. And this is based on that laundry list that I gave you before of what is important in leadership today. And by the way, I see you all as potential future leaders. Leadership is about having followers, about inspiring others, about whatever you believe in, whatever you're doing. And you, I'm sure all of you will be leaders in one way or the other, because otherwise you would not take the time to show up here. It's about how you can develop yourselves to be these future leaders. Now, and my advice is definitely about the remaining flexible and doing something different every single day will train your skills, your muscles on staying agile and flexible. Being inclusive. It goes hand in hand, of course, also with helping others, and also about making sure that you give other people voices, that you are including other people, whatever their diversity labels, as we like to call it. Of course, women is already, being a woman, being a girl is already a diversity label. We are seen as minorities, although we carry half of the sky, as Mao Zedong famously said. Also international. And today, being together with people from all over the world, that is one way of being international. I'm from Denmark, was born in Denmark, grew up in the Netherlands, studied in France, UK, Berlin, worked in China, studied in Taipei, worked in Japan and in Singapore, and I probably forgot a couple of countries along the way. I'm international by DNA. I'm sure some of you are also. If you don't have that opportunity to necessarily go and move around like I have done, then take these opportunities to connect with other girls, with other young adults from around the world as you're doing right now, because that will also train your inclusion muscle. It is about taking different perspectives, knowing that we see things in a different way. Logic is not determined by one culture. I'd like to take a little bit of a segue here because I studied Chinese. I lived in China. I studied Chinese. And the biggest epiphany I had about how people see things differently was when I studied the character for last week and next week. Next week, I hope that nobody is fluent in Mandarin, because I'm going to embarrass myself here by saying last week is 上个星期 and next week is 下个星期. The character for last starts with an arrow pointing up, and for next starts with pointing down. Isn't that a weird concept of time? Time is coming from up there and goes down there into the center of the earth. That is weird, isn't it? When we speak English, we say way back in the past or some way out in the future. We even do it with our gestures. Think about, how would you say last? What is your concept of time? Circular? Seasons come all the time? In Chinese, at some point of time, somebody decided that it was from up and down. When you're exposed to different cultures, you realize that logic, nobody has the ownership over logic. It's all different perspectives. And this is extremely important in today's world. Not least because in today's world, that was the wrong direction, here you go. In today's world, as the Prime Minister of Canada recently says, the pace of change has never been this fast, and yet it will never again be this slow. It will be faster and faster, the speed of change. So we need to remain flexible, agile, international, inclusive. One thing I'd like to go through with you is your big, audacious goal. What is your big, audacious goal? What is it that you, when you think about it, wow, that's a scary thing. I would like to be, I don't know, the Prime Minister, a CEO, I don't know, whatever it is. I would love for one of you to, well, for all of you right now, to think about, if you were going to think big, what would your one goal be? What would your one goal be? And if one of you is willing to step out into the limelight, unmute yourselves and share it with me for a second. I would love to hear from you. What is your big, audacious goal? Do we have a volunteer?
I'd like to share something.
Sure. What is your big, audacious goal?
So Netra already knows about it, and it is to create like this networking platform to bring students and career industry members from the sustainability sector together on a platform, so that can directly network the students and the sustainability mentors.
So a book should also be materials. It's not just about
Would you mind summarizing it again?
Yeah, so I think there's somebody who needs to be there's some background noise. So what I was sharing was that the big audacious goal that I say is that I want to create a networking platform for the students, the university students and the school students, and the people who are working in the sustainability sector, for them to network together and for the students to get the right kind of mentorship when they want to make a career in sustainability. So this seems like a big audacious goal for me right now.
Okay, how scared are you about making that happen?
Okay, I am. I'm not scared, but at the same time, I'm not sure either. And
Okay.
like you said about, because I have my gaps in networking, and I have my gap in. I'm a young mother, by the way. I'm not a student. With us, so yes, I'm not scared, but yes, I am a bit uncertain of how will I take the next step, and then the funding, then the platform, and the right contacts and everything. Yeah, so.
Okay. I can already hear that you're thinking in the right ways, because you are making a plan of, this is my first step, this is my next step. You're still unsure of how to do it. You have a plan, which is fantastic. That's great. Now, I would like you also to think differently. And I have it on the next slide. What mindset do you need to get there? And what experiences do you need to collect? What conversations do you need to have? And with whom can you have these conversations? I'd like you to look at some of these questions and pick one of them and answer them. For instance, what mindset do you need to have to get there? Is there something in your mind, something in your attitude right now that's keeping you from achieving this? What mindset do you need to have in order to do it? Are you still there? I'm not quite sure who it is. I can't even see what the name is. All right. Whilst we're waiting for you to come back, because I cannot hear you, somebody else who would like to think about, oh, was it Vidi? All right. I have Stevens Weisbar, who says conservation culture mindset. I'm not quite sure what that means. Let's get somebody else on the hot seat. Unmute yourself, somebody else who wants to go through this, and we just have a discussion about what is it that you need in order to get there from a complete different perspective of what most of you are probably looking at. A lot of us are planning for, all right, this is step one, this is step two. I would not now like to change the perspective and looking at what conversations do you need to have? What mindset do you need to work on? Do you need to be more brave, more bold? Do you need to be more self-confident, believe in yourself? Do you need to stop saying to yourself, whatever that little voice in your mind is? Who would like to unmute themselves and share their big, audacious goal, something that either you're unsure about or a bit scary about?
Hello?
Yeah, who's that?
This is Alice from Uganda.
All right, Alice from Uganda. What is your big, audacious goal?
My big audacious goal would be to be one of the best chefs in the world. I'm not limiting myself to my country. So
did I get it right? Build a business that is international? Was that, sorry?
No, to be the best chef, one of the best chefs.
Chef. Wow, yeah. Be the best chef in the world. That is fantastic. All right. Is there something inside of you that says, oh no, you can't be that, you can't do that? Is there some little voice that is saying that right now?
Yeah, I've tried to do things that are in line with, like you said, you should have a plan. So I started baking and doing some small things like chicken and all that stuff. But what's limiting is like the policies in our country. Sometimes I'm like, if I register my business, this and this is going to happen. They're going to ask me for these taxes, and then there's a lot to go around there. So that's what's limiting my mindset right now.
Okay, so it sounds like there's too much red tape for you to do this in Uganda. So how about we think much bigger than Uganda? How about we think internationally? And what mindsets do you need to have in order to believe in this? I am very sure that there is an opportunity for you, being from Uganda, to being the world's best chef, because the world wants more diversity. The world, I mean, look at, what do they call the Jamie Olivers and the other dude, right? They're Brits or whatever they are. The best restaurants in the world are run by white men, right? Japan, a little bit of an exception there as well. There's quite a few Michelin star restaurants in Japan. The world needs more diversity. I am sure that there is an opportunity for this. And I would love you to listen to the small voices in your head that are saying you cannot do this. Because red tape, there's plenty of people who overcame it, right? So what do you need to do to overcome the red tape? That is more a planning part. I want you also to think about the mindset part. What is the mindset you need to do? Do you simply need to have the confidence to I can do it? How are you going to get that confidence of how to do it? And then to some of the other questions, what experiences do you need to collect? What conversations do you need to have? Who do you need to speak to? So Alice, who do you need to speak to in order to understand what is it that is happening in the world's business of baking and cooking? Who do you need to speak to? Do you have some role models? Are you still there, Alice? All right. Whether you're there or not, Alice, those are the things I'd like you to think about. And what do you think if one of the top chefs in Uganda is going to be contacted by you? That you say, hey, I want to have a conversation with you. Would you be willing to go on a Zoom call to understand how you got into that position? They might say yes, they might say no. Why not try it, right? It is about speaking with other people who've done some of that, what you want to reach as well. Speak to some of those people, get their advice. What are some of the things they did in order to make it happen? So who do you know who can introduce you to that person? Back to the network again. I would like everybody on this call, whilst you're listening to this, also think about your own big, audacious goal. And then think about, what are the voices when you get a little bit scared or you think, I'm not sure whether I can do that? What is it that you're telling yourself? And can you shut up that little voice? Ask that little voice, okay, I'm having a serious adult conversation. Little voice, go into the other room. I'm right now planning for my big, audacious goal. I don't want to listen to you. It sounds silly, it works. Listen to those little voices because they give you a cue to that first point of what is the mindset you need to have. And then be bold, go and contact somebody who's had the same experience. I was contacted recently by a young woman. In fact, also, she was also in Dubai. She asked me, I would love to do what you're doing. Do you have time to have a Zoom call? I simply want to understand a little bit of how did you get to where you are today? I couldn't say no. I had a conversation with her. She asked me, will you be my mentor? And I am doing so much volunteer work. I cannot do more volunteer work. I told her yes, because she was so bold. She was so interested. She was learning, soaking up every word that I said. And she also listens to my advice. She also does the things that I'm advising her to do. She contacted me through LinkedIn. Who is it that you can contact through LinkedIn? And simply ask for them for the advice of how they got there. Ideally, of course, somebody who has achieved something that you want to achieve. Of course, it can be contacting through other social media. I'm on LinkedIn, that's why I'm mentioning LinkedIn. Find the person that you want to speak to, that you want to have a conversation with, and make sure that you present yourself in a very presentable manner, show that you have these ambitions and that you want to understand what are the pitfalls, what are some good advice that you need to bear in mind in order to get there. One more piece of advice for me is to choose the right romantic partner. If you want to achieve stuff in this world, unfortunately, a lot of women have chosen the wrong romantic partner, and that's kept them from having a career that made them fulfilled and that gave them the opportunity to have self-actualization. And that is linked with happiness. And that is linked with success. If you know Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the Supreme Court judge in the US who passed away right at the end of Donald Trump's term, she also says that her husband was the biggest single career success factor for her. Everybody needs a Marty in their lives, she said about her husband. And there's also a Harvard Business Review article that says exactly the same, that for women who have a career, they also need the right romantic partner. And when you're all in love and what have you, you know, that's not the first thing you're thinking of, and you think you can live with it, and you think they love you and respect you in return and will change their ways. Nope, they don't. They don't. If you're serious about you fulfilling yourself beyond the family, then you need to choose the right romantic partner. So yes, my key point to you is dare to be a leader, dare to be the best version of yourself, dare to think big, dare to have that big audacious goal, and dare to be yourself. You don't need to pretend to be anybody else. You can be magnified with that big audacious goal that you're following, and go for it. I'd love you to hear your takeaways with this as well, and go into the Q&A part of this. With that, I'll pass it over to Netra, also to facilitate this part of the discussion.
Thank you so much, Mette. This was seriously inspiring. I know that I learned a lot when I saw your advice, and I've been thinking of how to implement it. So we have a few questions here from the audience. So the first question is referring to your organization. So why did you set up the organizations that you did?
This is a brilliant question. And I hope this also has a learning in there, because I came from a family where my mother wanted an education, didn't get one. She's Danish, and of course she grew up during, well, I was born in the 60s, and that was during a time where there was a very strong feminist movement in Denmark. She had already had my sister when she was way too young, because she came from the countryside and then went to the big city, oops, got pregnant, oops, had to get married. And that was the end of her dream of having an education. So she lived her life through me of having a great education, so to say, right? And a lot of your parents might be doing the same. So we don't really question what fulfills us. What is it that we truly want to do? It's more about, I got a great education. I have an MBA from one of the best MBA schools out there. And then you start working for a company that has a great reputation. And then you're being promoted in the company. This is what a lot of us do because it's what is expected. It's kind of what we do. Now, I was not very happy at some point of time. To be more precise, 9 years ago, I was unhappy in that job in corporate life. I quit because I knew it was not sustainable to be unhappy in that position. I took 3 weeks on the beach to think about, what do I want to do? And connecting the dots backwards. And this is in fact all the way back to school. I was the kid in class who was helping others who didn't really get the math. And of course, I mean, I was the best one in math in that class. So it was easy for me. I was done with the exercises and I had nothing to do. And then the teacher said, why don't you help so-and-so? And I loved it. You know, I went around helping other kids, training them, teaching them the math that the teacher had told in class, and I got immediately. So even connecting the dot backwards all the way to school, it is about, I'm teaching others. And my company is now corporate training. I teach leadership skills rather than math, connecting the dots backward throughout my career, I was the happiest when I could support others in their self-development, in their careers. So when I had a bit of time to myself to think about what is it that I truly enjoy doing, taking the cues from what you truly enjoy doing, I then design my life around it and build a leadership consultancy around what I love to do. So excellent question that already you today, hopefully combined with what I shared here today, do things that you're good at and that you truly enjoy doing. I don't completely believe in you must just follow your passion. Make sure that those other circles from the Ikigai Venn diagram are also present, which is, do you deliver value to other people? Will they pay for it? When you have all those elements in place, that's when you're in your sweet spot. So thank you very much, Nisra, for that.
I think Netra's just dropped out. She'll come back in soon. I'll give you the next question. Do you have an age limit? Because I'm 28 years, though I seriously need to follow this program. So she's referring to when you first started talking about leadership. So she's asking, is there an age limit to start working on these things, on getting into the path of, becoming a leader, setting up your life?
No, absolutely not. I did this in my late 40s, and you can do it whatever age you are on this call. It's no age limit whatsoever. No, go for it. There's a very interesting philosophy, program, hypothesis, I don't know, concept, I guess, by a woman called Aviva Wittenberg-Cox. She is quite a thought leader on Forbes and LinkedIn. And she says that women in their 20s are very ambitious. In their 30s, they get a culture shock because all of a sudden they realize they're getting kids. They can't do all the things that they were ambitious about in their 20s. In their 40s, when kids are bigger, they start to re-accelerate. And in their 50s and their 60s is when they are all of a sudden seeking this self-fulfillment and working on themselves. And this is, for women in their 50s and 60s. So if you can reinvent yourself in your 40s, you can also reinvent yourself in your 20s, anytime. And leadership skills, personal development, this is a lifelong journey, not just something you do at university or in school or when you get into a leadership position. It's lifelong learning. Thank you very much for that question. Lina, do you have another few questions?
Netra is back on. I think she'll take the next.
Yeah, so sorry, my Wi-Fi just cut out for a bit, but we have questions rolling in. And so the next question we have is, what challenges have you faced in your journey to success? And have you tried to overcome them? And where did that reach you?
I've had plenty of bumps on the road for sure. And I work a lot in diversity and inclusion today. I do loads of leadership programs for women. And this is also based upon that when I was in my corporate life, I didn't have a smooth career. For me, it was this very typical one. I was very ambitious when I started working. And all of a sudden, I lost my self-confidence because in the world out there, very often, if you're a woman, it's assumed that you will not be in the driving seat for the career. It's assumed that you don't have ambitions. It's assumed that you don't want that stretch assignment. I literally had people saying to me, so I was working in China and then I moved to Germany where I got to meet my current husband, my only husband, my husband. And when Germany is a very conservative country, to be honest, in terms of women at the workplace. I also work for a chemical company, which is very conservative. And my husband was asked to take up a position in Japan. I got the advice, why don't you take a career break and get a couple of kids? Now, this is so damaging to women. When you are simply assuming that this is their main goal, you are discrediting women. And this takes away our self-confidence. If we're not heard in meetings, some of us are rebels. Some women are kick-ass rebels and they say, hey, if you're not listening to me, I'll shout louder and I'll slam the table. Now, most women, though, when they are discredited, they take it to, yeah, maybe, who am I actually to say it? Maybe I'm not so good, and maybe they're better, and maybe they're more better as leaders. You start also discounting yourself, to discredit yourself, and that's dangerous. I started doing this. So throughout that company, I definitely did not reach the levels that I could have reached, and that was a big bump. It was when I took the consequence 9 years ago and said, all right, it's not sustainable for me to work here. I need to get out, and I need to do it on my own. So it's about taking the consequences early enough. I didn't see it when I was in the middle of it, to be honest. I could feel that it was not right because I was having a lot less energy than I used to have. I was starting to be negative. So listen to yourself. How are you feeling? How are you acting? And if that is not your previous bubbly, positive, energetic self, then take the consequences. So that's one of the hiccups along the way.
Definitely. I think that during societal revolutions, we've seen that women aren't technically these little robot things, and they do have ambitions and goals, and it's very important to acknowledge that. So thank you for that. The next question here we have are, do challenges determine success?
Sorry, are challenges what?
Do challenges determine success? So if someone hasn't got challenges, doesn't mean they're not necessarily successful.
Do challenges determine success? Very, very nice questions. I've seen people who've had an easy life and they're successful. I've seen people who've had lots of challenges and they're successful. So, of course, I believe it's healthy to have some challenges. This particular challenge that I shared, would I have wanted to not have it? Absolutely. I've had plenty of other challenges, and that, of course, you grow from that. Would I have preferred to be in an organization that would have seen me as an equal and have provided me equal opportunities? Yes, absolutely. I'm still bitter about it, to be honest. And this is one of the reasons why I'm sharing it, because I don't want you to end up being bitter in 10 or 20 years because you didn't correct the course early enough. The good thing is that the further we are ahead, the more opportunities we do have as women to have a successful career as well and be fulfilled and happy.
Definitely. I think that advice was really solid, and hopefully that answers the question. So the question we have here is, can we be supported by people? And what happens if the people around us don't support our dreams and our wants?
If people don't support our dreams and our wants, it's back to that one of the last slides of choose your romantic partner. We gotta have people around us who support us. The key people in our lives must support us. We can get away with a couple of people here and there who are not supportive. But honestly, it is about making sure that you're with people who respect you enough for wanting you to be happy, successful, fulfilled. Yeah.
I agree with that. It's definitely important to surround yourself with people who want you to succeed. So this next question kind of comes in as a sub-question of that topic. I have a dream of going back to school and I'm not financially stable. Can I get someone to help me out?
I don't think I'm the right person to answer that. Usually I would answer, where there's a will, there's a way. And I have seen enough people who have found a way. I would need to know a lot more about the background in order to be confident in giving a good answer to this, though. So yes, usually with part-time jobs, with scholarships, with first working for a while and saving money. But I know that it's very much dependent on in what country are you growing up, what is your family situation. So I'd rather not be too confident in giving an answer to that.
That's okay, definitely. I think it does depend on them. If you would like to give out a way that they could contact you, and so this person could come to you with more context on the question?
I can share my slide here with so as I mentioned already, LinkedIn is definitely the best place to connect with me. I'm not sure whether everybody is on LinkedIn because it's more a professional network than a student network. And a lot of you are, of course, still in school and students. This is definitely a way to connect with me. Also through MetaMind training, the website, you can definitely contact me there as well. I hope you can see the QR code for connecting with me, and otherwise MetaMind training, take a screenshot of this and you can connect with me.
Thank you, Mette. I think this will be very useful for the people who would like to connect with you and hopefully seek you out as mentors. So the next question here we have is kind of a story, and it says, I have all it takes to work, the equipment, the expenses, some little capital because I've been saving money from what my husband leaves home, but I have a rigid husband who believes that women are supposed to stay home and take care of children. How do we change this? Her dreams are slowly fading away.
Unfortunately, this is a problem. And that's why we shared that slide with choose the right romantic partner. Now, I do believe you need to have a very good talk with your husband. And the best thing is to have it mediated. I would even go as far as saying counseling, because if you want to work, have a career, do things for yourself, I'm sure that this frustration is going to grow and grow and grow if you are not tackling this right now. This will be an unhappy marriage along the way if you don't tackle it. And some people might find counseling, but overall we're quite okay. I've had counseling with my husband around certain topics, also about equality, to be honest. My husband sees himself as somebody who's supporting. He's very supportive of women. Still, he had the mindset that he needs to be in the lead for the career. He needs to be a breadwinner. And it was only when we had a counseling session where a counselor came in as a neutral party and let me speak my mind of what is truly important in my life, that he finally got it. He didn't get it when I said it. He only got it when we had counseling. So yes, absolutely. And I have one of the more, I have a husband who sees himself as a very modern feminist. And I had to go through this. So yes, do something, find a way of solving this quickly, because you will be more and more unhappy if you let this go, or if you let this run the way it is right now.
I definitely agree with that. And hopefully this person will be able to come above this and they'll be able to start their dream. So the next question here is, sometimes happiness clashes with your goals. What do you do then?
If happiness clashes with your goals, I'd question whether it's the right goal. Sometimes, of course, there are things where you just got to have the grit and go through with it. And COVID was such a time for me. The 18 months of the really dark times of COVID were like that for me. I did not show up as a leader as much as I wanted to, because I was working my backside off to still make sure I'm the breadwinner. I've got a daughter who's studying in the UK, and that's not cheap. We're living in Singapore. That is quite a big part of the budget as well. Until recently, I was also supporting my son, who is now self-supportive, working in Germany, of course. So I was focusing very much on the survival of the business. I was working harder for a smaller pie. There was not much training. Companies did not do much training, which is my business. So for a smaller pie, I had to work harder to simply get that money so that we could make ends meet. meaning that I didn't have time to show up to be a leader or to have the chit chat and what have you, because I was working. So was I super happy during those months? No, absolutely not. It still was for me a temporary period. And all the time I was reassessing of how long I would still do this before I would go to plan B, which would not be my main preferred career path, but a compromise, which would mean that I would still get enough money to support my family. So if your goal is not bringing you the happiness, of course, it's back to sometimes it is about making ends meet, right? And I've been through that as well for the past 18 months, not for the past 2 months, but for the 18 months before that. So ask yourself difficult questions. What is that goal? Can I change that goal? Must I change that goal? Does it fit what really fulfills me and what makes me happy?
I agree with that. It's so important to have difficult conversations and really question it, because it should be something that makes you happy. Your goal should be linked to happiness, of course. Absolutely. So the next question here is, when you said givers, so you were talking about the whole concept of the givers and the takers. For the givers, you said that we need to take care of ourselves. How can you do that?
By not overstretching it, by making sure that you can be a selfless giver, of that everything is just about the other person. And you can also choose to give when you are also benefiting from it yourself, when you're getting something out of it yourself. For instance, to help people in an area where you get a kick out of it. So if we are selfless all the time, and of course, sometimes we can be selfless, I don't know, I was going to say, you know, bringing my husband a cup of water when I'm going into the kitchen anyway, I'm not getting any kick out of it or any benefits out of it. And I'm still doing this because he will also help me along the way, right? It is more about like when I help people, it is in an area where I also get a kick out of it. And I will also prioritize that, okay, these people, they are working for a company, like for instance, giving somebody a coaching session who's working for a large company that could potentially become my client. That is one of the ways. And I'm not saying I'm only going to help you if you also introduce me to your company so I can work for them. It is something where I'm thinking, well, maybe this could happen one day. So that is still take care of yourself, make sure that it could lead to something for yourself, or maybe that it gives you a learning experience, that you can put it on your CV. Seek a value exchange of, if you're helping, for those of you who are already doing things professionally, like the chef Alice from Uganda, it was, right? With the chef that, hey, I'm going to cook a 4-course meal for you if you give me a testimonial on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, post some pictures of what I do on Instagram. So that is ways where you're also taking care of yourself.
To not overexert yourself and to balance is such an important thing. And I think, yeah, it's something that we take for granted, but it is so simple to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The next question here is, I think it's more about the job, but do you help people in choosing a career?
We do that too, yes, career coaching, and in our Women in Leadership program, we do the exercises that I also shared with you. We do that both for our junior Women in Leadership programs and our senior Women in Leadership programs. So even with women who are already in leadership positions, we're doing similar exercises with that as well. It's more about teaching you to think in the right way. We're not saying, oh, this is what you should have as a career. It's more about challenging you to think. And the questions I gave you right now, those are the main questions.
Hopefully that answers the question that the person had. I think they were just a bit confused about what you do, but hopefully that's been cleared now. The next question I have here is, when can we have training for Ikigai? I think Hopefully
Oh,
I'm pronouncing
Ikigai.
that right. You mentioned it. Yeah.
Vinu, you can probably find somebody who will also go through the entire Ikigai. You can Google it. There's lots of information on the internet, and I'm sure that one of the keynote speaker women is also specialized in Ikigai, and you can have a session on that.
We'll definitely have someone coming in for that, and maybe they can go more into depth, and hopefully this person could attend that session. The next question here, and this will be one of the last. We have a bit of time remaining, but I know there are a few questions more, so I will try to compile all the questions. Next question here is, any mindset tips for networking for introverts? I know that you briefly skimmed upon this, but I think this person is just asking for a little more depth.
Yeah. I actually have this as part of my keynote speaking as well, where I give this advice, because a lot of introverts do not like big networking events. And still, hopefully when COVID is over, there will be certain events where you can meet people that are very interesting to you, where you're in some kind of, I don't know, whether it's a conference, whether it's simply a meeting somewhere, whether your parents are having people over and there's somebody that you really should be speaking to. And you might feel intimidated by the many people. Now, introverts, of course, get more energy from staying on their own. Introverts are also very good listeners usually. So what I recommend people to do is to not see it as networking, but rather to see it as, I'm going tonight or this afternoon, I'm going to meet somebody and I'm going to uncover one interesting thing about this person. In fact, what I share with adults when I say this is, turn on your people interest switch. And people go like, what? Your people interest switch? Yes. In your mind, you turn on the switch where you say, I'm going to be interested. So what you do before you go into the event, you're saying, I'm going to uncover something interesting about at least one person in the room. When you go in with that mindset, then you're going to ask questions differently. You're not just going to ask, oh, so what do you do? Where do you live? What brought you here? You're going to ask questions such as, what are some of the most interesting things about your job? Or what do you do on your weekends? You ask questions differently and you find interesting things about people. And then you have interesting conversations, because the questions you ask will then reveal where's the overlap of interest between that person and yourself. And of course, if you go in there with a strategy, if you know that it's your parents' friends, and that person is doing a job that you would like to do, go over there and say, hey, I know from my dad or my mom or my brother or whatever that you're working in so-and-so. This is one of the things I'd love to do. Would you mind sharing some tips about how you get into that field? Or would you mind sharing your journey of getting there? And then you have interesting conversations. And that's when introverts are also very happy to have the conversations.
Thank you so much, Mette. I think definitely that helps me, myself, as I am an introvert. So I think that's very helpful advice here. And so the last question that we have is, I find that when I grow up, I go to school and I have a lot of responsibilities. How do we deal with this?
Dealing with different responsibilities?
Yes.
I'm curious to know, what is the challenge having various responsibilities, because I personally don't see a problem with that. I definitely have more than one responsibility. I run a business, I run a volunteer organization, I'm a parent, I do loads of different crazy stuff. So I write books, I'm a keynote speaker, I show up for these kind of events. So yeah, there's lots of different things I do. I don't see the issue, to be honest. And of course, it also says a little bit about myself. Give me another 3 responsibilities, I'm okay with it. Yeah, let's write another book.
Thank you, Mette, for this amazing session. It's truly inspired me. We are going to close off now. If you have any words that you would like to say to the audience.
I would like to repeat what I said before already. If you're on this call, I know that there's loads of good stuff in you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be spending your Saturday, whatever time it is on your Saturday right now. You would not be joining this call if you don't have what it takes to succeed, because the curiosity that you're showing right now, that is very important in order for you to achieve what you would like to achieve, to get fulfilled, to realize the best version of yourself, and of course to choose happiness, because that is what leads to success. Thank you very much, and I wish you the best of success.
I know that there were a few more questions in the chat box, so definitely do feel free to connect with Mette on LinkedIn if you would like to. Thank you to our audience here for listening and engaging. Hope you enjoyed the session as much as I did. If you need any more details on how to participate in SpunkGo, please visit our website, www.spunkgo.com, and our lovely partners, www.keynotewomen.com. Thank you, everybody. Good day.